Howdy mates, good afternoon. How are we all doing today? It is Sunday, November 6th, 2022, and I've actually made my return to revisit the Red Bug Slough Preserve based out in Sarasota, Florida. And funny thing before I start this video, I just want to provide a shout out to a friend of mine, Gerald Thompson. He was actually out here, I think, not too long ago because he made a recent post about this park. And funny thing, I was over at Crowley earlier today doing some volunteering out there, and figured since I had some spare time, I'd go and revisit Red Bug Slough. So, hope you're doing well, Gerald. I hope this video finds you well, because what I'm about to discuss here in particular that you're seeing is something known as a littoral zone, which essentially describes a buffer between mainland and the body of water. Think of it as an ecotone or a transition, more or less. So, a littoral zone is essentially broken up into three different regions or subdivisions. So for one, which is the closest to us, we have something known as emergent plants. You know, they're typically the ones that sometimes can sprout from the water, but oftentimes the emergent plants are usually found closest to land. And in particular, what we're actually looking at right here, you see all this purple right here? This is our well-known Muhlygrass. And this was actually something Gerald made a post about. The Muhlygrass is indeed a native grass found down here in Florida. And grasses actually fall under a category of graminoids, which means that they have seeds that will sprout for the next generation. But graminoids describes a group of grasses, sedges, and rushes. You know, the famous saying for us to distinguish between all three is sedges have edges, rushes are round, grasses have nodes that go all the way to the ground. So in particular, Muhlygrass actually is a true grass, as they do have nodes going all the way to the ground. But for another, this can make it tricky sometimes, is both grasses and rushes tend to be round. But a good way to tell with grass in particular is usually grasses are a bit more hollow on the inside, whereas a rush, on the other hand, typically has like a pithy-like material. The best comparison would be something like a sponge, as an example. But no need to digress. The Muhlygrass is currently in bloom right now, given that it is in the fall. And this is actually a favorite among our migratory birds, just because since they are blooming right now, they're producing so many seeds that are indeed edible for our wildlife. So just do my part, just spread it out, have a new generation start not too long from now. But the Muhlygrass is essentially used, it's been used for many different purposes, especially among the indigenous tribes. So for one, the Calusa or even the Seminole, they used Muhlygrass to actually make baskets and even for brooms too, you know, for cleaning and whatnot, just because of its thick material, especially once it dries up. But these plants are so favorable too because, you know, they have a way of anchoring the soil in these littoral zones. And then for another, they can grow in clusters. So once they grow in clusters, it provides an excellent opportunity for our wildlife to have a form of cover away from any threats. You know, sometimes if you're even lucky, you may even see a bobcat in these muhlygrass patches, you know, just to hide. That's just an example, of course. But, you know, muhlygrass, you can easily find them at a native nursery. So you can indeed grow them in your yard. So you're not only supporting native plants, but you're also supporting wildlife too. So yes, I'll be sure to, you know, share an article a bit more on the muhlygrass, but they really are an essential plant, especially in Florida's ecosystem. So I think what I'm going to actually do, you guys, is break this up into a second video, just because, you know, I got a bit more in depth about the emergent zone, when yet there's still more to talk about with littoral zones. So stay tuned for the part 2. All right, take care, you guys. See ya.